All right. Hey, folks. So, welcome back for another episode on Fazlift's channel. I'm Faz. Today, we're going to be talking about how to pick a good range of exercises to maximize muscle fatigue while minimizing systemic fatigue. So, firstly, thanks for making it onto my channel. It's about that time. We're at the new year. Summer is a handful of months away. If you are looking for some coaching to maximize your results in 2022, I have spots available. I'm looking to take on more people. So there is a link in the description. Whatever your goals are, strength gain, muscle gain, fat loss, get in contact, at least begin a conversation with me. Let me know what your goals are and let's see what I can help you with. Okay. So getting on with the topic, I got a question through from a buddy on Instagram and I'll just read this out for you and then we'll go into today's topic. So he said, hey Faz, did deadlifts ever interfere with your other lifts fatigue-wise? I only ask because since I've been deadlifting heavy, I'm just effed all the time. So I'll get into that. But firstly, I just want to say you will adapt. You'll adapt to a certain extent. Now, there's good evidence to suggest now that a routine you're doing currently and you're struggling with, you will be able to adapt to that over time. So your body adapts. I mean, that's literally what human bodies do. We adapt. At my peak, I was deadlifting 6 days a week. So I think part of strength is, adaptation to strength endurance, building the base of the pyramid for a bigger peak. That was what we used to do with strength building. To get a bigger max, you would build a bigger base. So a bigger top end strength requires more volume. Anyway, here's the main gist of the conversation about choosing good exercises. When you're choosing your range of exercises for your body, for a body part, whatever, what you're trying to do is you're trying to maximize muscle fatigue while minimizing systemic fatigue. And here's the trick, okay? Muscles recover tremendously fast. In beginners, muscles recover within sort of like 24 to 48 hours. In advanced lifters, muscles can recover even faster than that. Within 12 hours, we could be good to go again after a really intense session. Either way, muscles recover very, very fast, far, far faster than the magnitude of frequency that we normally train with them. So normally people train once a week, twice a week for body parts. Muscles recover lightning fast. Now, what doesn't recover very fast is your system, your body as a whole. That recovers very slowly. And in understanding this topic and understanding what exercises we need to choose for the best hypertrophy outcomes, we need to understand what systemic fatigue is, so how that affects the overall makeup of the exercises that we choose. So firstly, you've got something called nervous system fatigue. Now, nervous system fatigue is just that whole neural drive. It's like that, how hard you're working. Now, most people will put more effort into like squats and deadlifts because there's something more primal about them. There's something more primal about having a bar on your back, literally looking to squash you and reacting against that than there is getting into a nice, comfortable leg press, So there's more of, and you're also holding the bar with your hands, whether it's a squat bar, whether it's a deadlift, and people tend to just get more fatigue based on that, okay? There's also the balancing factor, everything. It creates a great degree of systemic fatigue via that sort of nervous system fatigue. So that's the first thing. That takes a while to recover. And if you deadlift very heavy on a Monday, you might not be able to deadlift heavy again for another week, 10 days, maybe, depending on how strong you are and how trained you are for it. So that means with the nervous system fatigue, it means that some of the lifts, particularly the barbell lifts, we should be using them less and less often than some of the rest of the things. Now, that obviously depends on the individual, but still, less is a good rule of thumb. So you can squat less often than you can leg extension, for example, if you see what I mean. You can deadlift less often than you can hyperextension. Okay, you can bench press less often than you can, I don't know, like cable fly or machine chest press. So anyway, there's nervous system fatigue. Now, the next thing is axial fatigue. Axial fatigue is the culmination of the stress on your spine, spinal loading. Now, squats, deadlifts, and all variations of those, like good mornings and Romanian deadlifts, all that kind of stuff, they all contribute to axial fatigue, and that's its own separate stress system. So that can also lead to feelings and a lack of strength in the course of the week and lack of recovery. And finally, in this whole systemic fatigue, we have connective tissue fatigue. That's a very real one. And again, that's higher with barbell lifts as well, because with a nicely honed machine. Like, you ever been on a hammer strength chest press? It's the best. Starts out here, comes in narrow, it's beautiful. Bench press, the barbell is like, well, you're going to go where I want you to go. And so your joints have to kind of move around it. Whereas with those machines, it's like gliding along. They just, you're on for the ride. So there's much more connective tissue fatigue with heavy barbell lifts as well, because you have to stabilize so much, and you're in the path that the barbell wants you to lift in, rather than a machine which goes in a predetermined ergonomic path. So with all these three factors, they compose systemic fatigue. So in all of these, we're seeing that the barbell lifts contribute to more systemic fatigue from a neuromuscular point of view, from an axial point of view, from a connective tissue point of view. Okay. So this means that a good range of exercises should maximize muscle fatigue and minimize systemic fatigue. We agreed? Okay. And what that means is we can generally do more volume for the muscles, which generally means more growth, which is great. Okay. So it's about finding the right ratio. So it's not, we can't just say, yeah, barbells are rubbish. Can't say that, because they're actually very effective, you know. And for some of you guys out there, they may be the most effective thing for you to do. There'll be some of you listening right now, barbell should probably be the only thing you do during the week. Now, let me go through a range of different sort of other factors which contribute to why barbells and machines, etc., are better and worse depending on your throughout your career. So firstly, strength. So as a beginner, barbells, because it's down to the weight you're using, you're only going to be using anywhere between the bar and maybe a plate to a plate and a half, you know, whatever the definition of a beginner is. Barbells represent the best trade-off between muscular fatigue and nervous system fatigue, systemic fatigue, because if you're lifting between 40 to 80 kilos, well, you're just not going to generate that much systemic fatigue because it's still a very light weight, but you'll generate a ton of muscular fatigue. So for a beginner, you could argue that barbell is pretty much the only thing you should do. You get all these beginners starting off with push-ups and machines and cables. Like, it's kind of the opposite of what they should be doing. They should be doing heavy barbell lifts so they can load them progressively. Now, as you move into the intermediate phase, if you continue to just do barbells, what you'll do is you'll really hamstring your ability to do more volume. So once you're decently strong, let's say you're benching 2 plates, squatting 3 plates, deadlifting 4 plates, if all you do is barbells, then the level of volume you'll do, it'll be a lot lower than you need to in pushing your strength and your mass up, which is why you would substitute out some of your barbell lifts for machines, dumbbells, etc. Okay, it allows you to get more muscular fatigue with less systemic fatigue, if you're following me. Now, in the advanced trainee, unless they're a powerlifter, they might not want to use barbells at all, because the amount of, you get a guy who benches 4 plates aside on the regular. If he's doing that week in, week out, he's going to just destroy himself, unless he's really built to powerlift and he's used to that whole powerlifting approach and he's adapted, like I did. Most people don't train themselves to do that. And it's a risky strategy anyway. So for the advanced bodybuilder, he probably wants to shy away from the barbells at least most of the time and just get to the point where he's putting in sufficient work with machines and dumbbells and cables so he can build in the volume, just bring down his entire systemic fatigue and ensure he's maximizing how much muscular fatigue he delivers to his muscles. So that's one factor. Age is also another factor. I generally think the older you are, guys in their late 20s, early 30s, like, they're on the barbell train. That's great. So was I. But things change when you get a bit older, and it's harder and harder to do maximum volume. Like, I'll tell you guys now, even at my age, I'm only 40, but it's harder and harder for me to do sets per week of about 15 to 20 if I'm relying mostly on barbells. Like, I can do it if I add in machines, but just with squats and deadlifts and benches and variations, I'm hard pressed to go more than 10 sets a week per body part. So if you really want to ramp the volume up and ramp the muscular fatigue up while minimizing the systemic fatigue, you want to replace some of those with machines. It just makes more sense. And this is then, as a side note, this is where the myth of machines being better for hypertrophy comes from, because you get these advanced bodybuilders who go, can't do barbells anymore because they just destroy me. You get a guy who's deadlifting 6, 7, 8 plates aside as a bodybuilder. He's going to do that once every few months. He's not going to do that on the regular. Not really. There'll always be 1 or 2 exceptions, especially some of the shorter bodybuilders nowadays we get. But as you age and as you get more advanced, Most people use less and less barbells because it's just horrendous to recover from, which means you can't get in the volume you need to do to actually grow. And also, finally, I'd say enhanced status. I think sort of the enhanced users probably can get away with using barbells more often, just because recovery is enhanced dramatically. Not saying they should, but it's probably something they can get away with. In any case, so let's just reverse this right back to the original question. This guy, my friend of mine, asked me, did deadlifts interfere? For me, they didn't. But in terms of for him, if they are interfering massively and he's not seeing an improvement in recovery, he should look at minimizing some of the deadlifting he does and to allow himself to do other variations. Perhaps the first thing you could do is, rather than deadlifts, do stiff leg deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts, and then fill in the rest of the lower back, hips, hamstring, glute work with other exercises in the gym. Like he could do glute bridge machine, he could do lots more leg curls, he could do hyperextensions with weight, he could do Romanian deadlifts, good mornings. Just fill in the rest of the back with other exercises. That's the first thing. Okay. And yeah, look to utilize some of the great machines we have out there for those areas. So hopefully this was an interesting video. I wanted to just deep dive into this concept of maximizing muscle fatigue versus minimizing systemic fatigue. For those of you familiar with Mike Israetel's work, you'll know that he calls this the stimulus to fatigue ratio, SFR. He's great because he slaps labels on things, so it's easy to talk about them. But this 12-minute video was basically me explaining my experience with that concept, which is something I've been familiar with for years. And hopefully breaking down why this happens and what you can do about it. Essentially, as you become more advanced and as you age, you should be, unless you're a powerlifter, it might benefit you to slowly reduce some of the barbell lifts that you have in your routine in place of machines and things which are more muscularly fatiguing while being less systemically fatiguing. As a rule, you don't have to do that all the time, but as a rule, you're looking to maximize muscle fatigue, minimize systemic fatigue. But I think in all but the most extreme cases of like really advanced pro bodybuilders, I think there's still room for the barbell, and I think the barbell lifts are amazing. In general, I'm not a fan of the argument which says that barbells are dangerous or inferior to machines. In my experience, barbell lifts, the power lifts, their variations, the overhead presses, the bent over rows, they are far superior than most other machine and dumbbell exercises. However, this video has just explained that over the course of a lifetime, it may behoove you in certain areas to take some of them out if you're struggling to recover and make up the volume with exercises and equipment which is less systemically fatiguing. There you go. Hopefully that made sense, and I'll speak to you guys soon.